let's break it down with the number 10 quarterback of the NFL currently heading into week 1, and that is Kirk Cousins. Speaking about last season, he led the Vikings to a record 11-0 in one-score games with a tying a record. Matthew Stafford, I believe back in 2016, with 8 fourth-quarter comebacks and 8 game-winning drives. Last season, he was 4th in passing yards, 5th in touchdowns, 7th in big-time throws. He had more than Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, and 1 below Joe Burrow. By the way, most of those quarterbacks are much, much higher on the list than number 10 at Kirk Cousins. He's also the 9th highest graded passer. And guess what? Those 11-0 comebacks, it didn't help having the 31st ranked defense in the NFL. Pretty bad. Now, obviously, the thing with Kirk Cousins is the reason why he's not, a top 8, 9 quarterback. Outside of 1 p.m., he doesn't play that well. That's just the fact about Kirk Cousins. When the lights get the brightest, he comes up the smallest, so that's why I have him at number 10. We also have, let's go, actually, I meant to do this. Let's do number 9. We got Jared Goff. What? Jared Goff on a top 10 quarterback list? I also had him on the top 10 list last season to end the year, actually, just because he the entire Lions team ended actually really, really good. They won the 8 of their last 10 games, and that was led by Jared Goff, who also outplayed Aaron Rodgers in that last regular season game. But he had a comeback year last year. Let's be honest. He had the 6th most passing yards in the NFL. He's tied with Kirk Cousins in touchdowns with, I believe, 25. He also only had half the interceptions. Kirk Cousins had 14 picks. Jared Goff only had 7. By the way, I think it's 29 touchdowns. He had the 5th highest QBR last year, scale of 0 to 100. He was 7th in passer rating. He was 6th in PFF's statistic of accuracy plus, which is right on the money, right in the chest, the perfect throw. He was 6th in the league in that, and that was with the 32nd ranked defense. He was coming out and basically almost was very, very close to leading the Lions to a playoff berth, their first one in 30 years. Let's get into the next top, let's get into number 8 here, Lamar Jackson. Now, this is a difference from last year, obviously, because of the fact that I didn't have him to start the year, due to the fact he only played 12 games last season. And it's the same one actually going to this season. He only played 12 games. 1 game. That's the big thing with Lamar Jackson. Why he can't be higher on my list, at least to start the season. He's played 1 game out of 12 potential games in December and January. He's injury prone. That's just how it is. And it's not because his offensive line is a sieve. He actually, since he came into the league, has the 3rd ranked offensive line on average. So it isn't offensive line problems. So health is a concern, and that's why I'm scared to put him higher. So health is a big issue. But if we're talking about just his play alone, he is a nightmare for any defensive coordinator with his mobility and his elusiveness. I mean, we saw in one of his first seasons, I believe it was his unanimous MVP season. He had a juke against a Bengals linebacker, set internet into a frenzy, basically. Now, I know a lot of people say that wins aren't a quarterback stat, but when it comes to Lamar Jackson, it seems like we just pushed that idea to the side because a lot of people bring up the fact that he has a 45-16 winning record with the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm going to say that's actually a major positive for Lamar Jackson because he has been a massive part of that, as I think a lot of people would agree. A lot of quarterbacks are probably the primary reason why they win games. However, some people think it's a gray area or they're not a QB stat. I think it's somewhat important. I think it matters. I think it matters a lot, actually. But he is one of the most explosive quarterbacks in the league. I don't trust his passing. That is something that I don't necessarily trust. He was one of the most inaccurate throwers last season. So I don't feel great about Lamar Jackson, but he does now have weapons. Still has Mark Andrews. They got OBJ, and now they have Zay Flowers, the rookie. Apparently, Zay Flowers is cooking in camp, so I think Lamar Jackson 8 is a perfectly fine spot. And besides, they also have brand new OC Todd Monken, who's going to change the offense and implement more passing into Lamar's offensive arsenal. Let's get into number 7. Let's go with Aaron Rodgers. Now, it's funny that I put him here because I may not have put him in my top 10 quarterbacks to end the year last year, and I don't believe I did. But if I did, I'm sorry about that. But I'm doing this more so for into the next part of the top 10, so week 4, week 5, because this is a different Aaron Rodgers that we've seen so far in the offseason. The first thing would be he's engaging with his young receivers, which he hasn't done in years in Green Bay. He actually seems happy. He's being involved in the community. Green Bay, he wanted to get the farthest away from Green Bay as possible. He would go in hobbit holes and darkness retreats, go on ayahuasca trips to find his inner self. He's not doing that in New York. He's going to Knicks games. He's going to Ranger games. He's going to Islander games. He's enjoying the community. he's coming off a bad season, and that's what's interesting about it. But he does actually have a major improvement. He has probably the best defense he's had since he won the Super Bowl. He has now Garrett Wilson, a solidified wide receiver one. Alan Lazard isn't going to really get you to the promised land being your wide receiver one. Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, both two rookie receivers at the time. He didn't really connect with them because guess what? That's what Rodgers did in Green Bay. This time, he's moving stuff around. He has a new mentality. He's a reinvigorated and re-energized Aaron Rodgers, and I think that type of Aaron Rodgers could be very, very scary. However, there is some cause for concern. His playoff record since he won the Super Bowl has been 7-9 with some very ugly losses to Jimmy Garoppolo and his head coach not even trusting him against Tom Brady. He decided to kick a field goal instead of going on fourth down for the touchdown. So we're talking about, Rodgers in the playoffs. We're seeing DJ Reed said the defense could be the best defense in NFL history, surpassing the Legion of Boom and the 85 Bears. I don't know about that. The Jets are talking a lot of smack for a team that hasn't won a Super Bowl since 1968 before man walked on the moon. So I think we need to take a pause here. However, Aaron Rodgers he's 1 year removed from being a back-to-back MVP. There's a lot of talent there. The offensive line and the tight ends give me a little bit of pause, but Aaron Rodgers should be a happy Aaron Rodgers this season, and I think that could be very scary for the rest of the NFL. Let's get into number six. And that is Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, a quarterback that I thought would have been one of the best quarterbacks in his draft class, and I had a lot of faith in Justin Herbert. I said on the show that used to be called Fast Break when I did my mock draft that I would actually take him over Tua Tagovailoa, and it turns out, nope, the Dolphins decided to go with Tua. Reportedly, Brian Flores wanted Justin Herbert, but I'm not exactly, I can't confirm that. That was a rumor that I heard. However, last season he was second in passing yards, eighth in touchdowns. He was tied for third in fourth quarter comebacks, a very, very clutch quarterback. He was tied for second in game-winning drives. Throughout his career, he averages about 4,700 yards and 31 touchdowns per season. An incredible start to his career. And I'm sure we all remember how his career started. He wasn't even supposed to play. Tyrod Taylor, I think he had a collapsed lung or something right before the game, and he was told 20 minutes before the game, hey, by the way, you're starting for us against Patrick Mahomes. And up until late in the fourth quarter, he went toe-to-toe in his first game against Patrick Mahomes, which is absolutely incredible. And since then, he's gotten very, very close to beating Mahomes, but he hasn't quite gotten there. So maybe we'll see this season if they play against one another. I think that'll be a very, very interesting matchup. They'll play twice. I mean, do I think the Chiefs could maybe split the series? Potentially. But I have faith in Justin Herbert this season, but obviously we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's going to be good because he got OC Kellen Moore, who was the OC for the Dallas Cowboys, and he led the Dallas Cowboys offense to be like the highest scoring offense for the past two seasons. 30-plus points per game, which is absolutely incredible. So I think that'll only help out Justin Herbert. You got to be careful of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, though. They're injury-prone receivers. I believe they missed 11 games total. But I believe you got Quentin Johnson as your wide receiver 3 now. That should help at least depth-wise. I don't know, I got a lot of faith in Justin Herbert and the Chargers this season. I think they could be a very, very good team, and I think they deserve a playoff spot. Let's get into the next one, which is number 5, Trevor Lawrence. Now, I know a lot of people, I've seen a lot of top 10 lists, and he's, number 9, number 8, maybe even number 7, but not many people put him in the top 5. For me, though, absolutely I'd put him in the top 5 because he took the Jaguars to their first playoff series and their first playoff win since 2017. If we remember, that was Blake Bortles, and the Jaguars actually probably should have but could have made the Super Bowl that year if it wasn't for Brady having a tremendous fourth quarter comeback back when he was on the Patriots. Since week 9 of last year, I brought this up before on the show way back when, he was first in completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio, and passer rating. So he had a huge spark second half of the season. And now you add what he did last season. He beat out Justin Herbert, that incredible second half comeback, 20-point comeback to be exact, and he had 2 opportunities to beat Mahomes in the divisional game to maybe send the Jaguars to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they'll beat the Bengals at the time. However, he did have an opportunity to go out and beat Mahomes, but once again, he's a second-year quarterback. I don't expect many, if any, second-year quarterbacks to go out and beat Mahomes. But based on all of that, going into that season, Trevor Lawrence was a pretty bad quarterback record-wise, and he was dealing with all that, Urban Meyer situation. So to come, you get Doug Peterson, Super Bowl winning head coach, out-coach Belichick in the 2017 Super Bowl when he was with the Eagles. It really helped Trevor Lawrence, and we sort of, make this his first year. Last year be his first year. You add all of that together, now you add Calvin Ridley to that pack. It's a pretty good wide receiver core. You had Calvin Ridley, who the last time we saw him play was pretty explosive for the Falcons. I think the Jaguars, they're contending for the first seed in the AFC, but of course, we'll have to wait and see. Let's go with the next one, which is
number 4.
Number 4, Josh Allen. He's not in the top 3. He's not a top 3 quarterback. He had the most red zone interceptions last season. However, he was 7th in passing yards, 2nd in passing touchdowns, 2nd in QBR scale of 0 to 100, 3rd highest graded passer according to PFF. He basically made the Bills the kings of the AFC East. No one has really, come close to passing the Bills to take that AFC East crown from him. He arguably has the strongest arm in the NFL. I would say it's probably between him and Mahomes. Those are really the only two that you could say have the strongest arms in the NFL. He's also a tough runner. I think if you were to create a player comp of who Josh Allen is, it's Cam Newton and it's Big Ben. Big Ben with his size, Cam Newton with his mobility and athleticism. He was the 3rd highest graded runner as a quarterback, which is absolutely incredible coming from a guy who his main talent should be his arm strength. And yet, he goes out, and guess what? Because the Bills have absolutely no run game. They haven't got the offensive line right, but the running game is basically non-existent. It's Josh Allen who comes up with the big, important runs, and that is major for a quarterback like Josh Allen and for the Bills to make those big-time plays when you don't have a secret weapon of a running back. Let's get into the next one, which is Number 3, Jalen Hurts. He just made it to a Super Bowl. Just made it into the Super Bowl for his 2nd season starting. That first season, he didn't start many games. Got subbed out for Nate Sudfeld. That was the end of Doug Peterson's reign with Philadelphia. But 2nd season starting, he made it to the Super Bowl. Not only did he make it, he outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl. 35 total touchdowns last season, 4,400 total yards last season. He was 4th in QBR and passer rating, which is absolutely incredible. Honestly, he was pretty much in the MVP race up until he got hurt, and they had to put in Gardner Minshew at quarterback. With the addition of A.J. Brown, I showed this before. It's the same progression level from that Josh Allen had when he got Stephon Diggs. Jalen Hurts gets A.J. Brown, and now Jalen Hurts, I put him top 3. That's how good having the wide receiver 1 is, and you have a tremendous talent. And not only that, taking it away from the field, he's an incredibly mature quarterback, a great leader, and also his work ethic is absolutely incredible, and he's only at the age of 24. That is insane to see. So, I mean, number 3, you could argue number 2. I don't know if I would put him number 2 yet. I think if he plays well, I mean, he had the Eagles going undefeated for a large part of the season. So, and this was also, his team was about to give up on him. I mean, they didn't think he was any good. And now you have a great comeback season last season. I don't know. I feel good about Jalen Hurts at number 3. Let's get into the final 2. Number 2, we got Joe Burrow, probably the closest quarterback to passing Mahomes. However, he's not quite there yet. However, he's the MVP favorite at the moment. So he made it to the Super Bowl with an absolute turnstile of an offensive line. And if he had about a half second more before, I believe, Aaron Donald sacked him on the last play, Jamar Chase was about to break free, which would have been a touchdown. Bengals win that Super Bowl. He's a great pocket passer. He is great under pressure in the biggest stage with the brightest lights. Look at Arrowhead, the loudest stadium in the NFL. He's outplayed Mahomes 3 out of the 4 games. But I'll get to that in just a second. He was 2nd in completion percentage last season, 2nd in touchdowns, 2nd in yards per game. He's the best QB, not named Tom Brady, who's currently retired, that could poke a stick at Mahomes and say, "I'm right behind you. I may be better than you." He's the only quarterback that could say that is currently playing in the NFL. But he has outplayed Mahomes 3 out of the 4 games that they've played up against one another. So much so, these are the stats in his 3 wins against the Chiefs. 72.2% completion percentage, 982 yards, 8-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Mahomes, I think, has a 67% completion percentage. I mean, Joe Burrow is an absolute dynamic quarterback, a great quarterback. And you know what? This might be the season the Bengals take it all the way. I'm not too sure, but however, I don't even think I need to say this, but the number one quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. Now, I did write stuff down here about Mahomes just to solidify how he's number 1, but I think he's the unanimous number 1 quarterback in the NFL. He won the Super Bowl. He's now a 2-time Super Bowl winner. He was 1st in yards, 1st in touchdowns, 1st in QBR, 2nd in passer rating. Without Tyreek Hill, he still had an incredible season. Including myself, I thought the Chiefs may be huge. Like, they may drop off incredibly because of just how dynamic and dominant Tyreek Hill was. It didn't seem to matter whatsoever. in the biggest moments in the playoffs, it wasn't Patrick Mahomes' arm that got him to the promised land. No. He ran the ball. It was his legs that got them to where they needed to be. It was his running got the penalty on, I think it was the Bengals defensive end, and that sent him. It was Harrison Butker made the field goal, but that set him up for the field goal. And also, I'm pretty sure in the Super Bowl, Mahomes had that big run right before there was like the pass interference or the holding call late in that game. So Mahomes is absolutely incredible. He's the best freestyler probably in NFL history. I mean, he does crazy throws. He has some of the best looking incomplete passes I have ever seen in my life. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he jumped out of bounds and almost made a throw that could have been completed. I mean, how are you going to guard someone who's out of bounds? If you touch him when he's out of bounds, that's a penalty. Mahomes is changing the way quarterbacks play. We saw Caleb Williams dance around like he was Mahomes and deliver an absolute bullet for a touchdown. You could probably call him, you could solidify him probably as a first ballot Hall of Famer, only at the age of 27 years old. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.